Okay, well, it looks like we're live. So, welcome everyone to the latest of Pollstar Live One-on-One. And I'm very happy today to be sitting here with the great Mike Farris, in my opinion, one of the greatest singers of his generation, multiple genres. Soul for Days. He's won Americana Awards and GMA Dove Awards and a Grammy for Best Roots Gospel Album in 2015. So welcome, Mike. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ray. It's great to be here.
Well, good. We'll jump right back in. I want to get some background first for those who might not be familiar with your long career. I first got introduced to Mike Farris with the band the Screaming Cheetah Wheelies, which formed in 1990 and was a major label act and did 3 records. Tell us about the Wheelies.
The Wheelies was the quintessential opening act. You remember bands like Uriah Heep and I don't know. There was like a bunch of those bands back in the 70s. It was always opening for people. Mother's Finest was one of them. Yeah. Mother's Finest. And so that's kind of what the Wheelies ended up being. We toured open for everybody, man. Our first major tour was for Meatloaf's second record, Bat Out of Hell 2, which became this massive hit. And we went on tour with Meatloaf. Went from until I got signed to Atlantic, I'd never even been on a plane. Furthest north I'd ever been was Nashville or Bowling Green. We did a show in Bowling Green one time. So, and we ended up going on tour with Meatloaf, man, and touring the whole country. Went from just being small town boy right into it, but we opened for everybody, so we kind of we had some success. We had, a title track on a movie, and stuff like that, and some relative success, but never quite got to the mountaintop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw you the Horde tour, which was a kind of jam band kind of tour that had some pretty major acts of that scene on it.
That, you know what, man? That was where'd you see it at Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Nashville.
We did I think 2 runs on the Horde. One year the headliner was the Allman Brothers. The other year it was Neil Young and Crazy Horse. And it was really, Ray, man, it was dollar for dollar. It was the best ticket going, man, with all the bands. Because the one year, the first year we did was with the Allman Brothers, which was incredible. They were back, but it had Dave Matthews, who was nobody really. I mean, he already had a big following, but nobody knew him in the way that they know him now, and Blues Traveler, Sheryl Crow, Big Ed Todd and the Monsters. There's a couple more that were just on the bubble of getting ready to blow sky high. Cheryl hadn't gotten there yet, and it was just really, really amazing, man. Dickie Betts invited me to sing every night with them, and it was really cool. Cheryl would sing a song with them. I think she would sing Midnight Rider with Greg. That was such a family atmosphere. Well, it wasn't family friendly by no means, but it was. We were family.
Yeah, you were family. It wasn't, not to imply it was a family show, but it was fun. It was fun. One of the notoriety of Screaming Cheetah Wheelies is I think you guys were the last show at the Wetlands, the great New York venue.
We were the second to last, actually. It was the last band I think to play there was I think Robert Randolph and the Family Band, and we played on Sunday, and I think he played on Monday. 9/11 happened on Tuesday.
Wow!
And we actually had we had some firefighter buddies or fans who were there that lost their lives, and I remember leaving the Wetlands the next morning I mean, we started playing at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Back then, those, bands, my band now, they don't get this. They don't understand. They're like, my singers can't keep up. Nobody can keep up. They're like, you want to play for 3 hours. And I'm like, that's what you do. I don't get warmed up till about 2 hours, hour and a half. And so, but back then we would start, especially at Wetlands, you'd start at like 1 or 2 in the morning and you played till 5. And it was just, it was amazing, magical time. And it was a storied place. But I remember leaving the show that morning. The sun was just coming up, and my manager, Rose McGaffey, had a convertible Volvo, little convertible Volvo. And we went around the corner and we were sitting at a red light and I look up out of this convertible and I'm actually at the very foot of one of the towers, and I'm looking straight up, and you couldn't see the top because it went up into the clouds. But it was it was what, 8 feet away from the base of it was between me and the sidewalk at this red light, nobody on the roads. And it was just crazy to think about, we were just at the foot of that thing just a few days before. It was crazy.
Yeah. And, but it was a successful band and it ran its course. You mentioned Rose, that she was influential in your career, and not just with the Cheetah Wheelies, but after that, right?
Yeah, she and her husband Bill had a independent rock radio promotions company called McGathy Promotions, and it was they were the rock promotions company in America, and if not North America, I'm not sure, but no, it was just North America, because Canada's different there. But yeah, so they split, and then when they split, all she wanted was she took Chevelle, pretty successful rock band, and me, and so we were off and running. And Rose passed away in 2007, and she was hugely influential. She actually named my first. I did a solo record 2001 and 2007 when I did Salvation and Lights. She sent me a picture from LA. She was out in LA, I think, and she sent me a picture, and it was just a picture, and it was a photo of her standing under a bar marquee sign, and it just and I guess the bar was called Salvation, and it just said Salvation across it. And so the caption or the title of her email was Salvation in Lights, and I went, that you just named the record. That's it, But she was like that, man. She was dialed in, man, hardcore. And so ever since then, we do everything we can to try to keep her memory alive, And she, Rose believed in me when nobody else believed in me, and I didn't even believe in me. And when I got clean, she got diagnosed with lung cancer, and we're both at this crossroads, and so she's the one that encouraged me, inspired me to jump into like the old Black spiritual music, because that's what I listened to. That's what at home, that's what I sang around the house. She's like, just make a record of stuff you want to play. That you sing around the house. And I was like, because she was like, do what you love. And I was like, I don't even know. Because when you chase radio all the time, back in those days, radio was moving so far away from the wheelies. I was like, I'm done. We got Limp Bizkit and Korn and all this stuff, man. I don't want to put a clown suit on and chase that kind of thing. It's not what so I was like, this is rock radio is not where we are anymore. So I knew there was, and she was like, so do what makes you happy. I was like, I don't even know anymore. So I thought about it, and she was like, do the stuff that just make a record. And I was like, well, nobody's going to listen. There's no market for it. Where do you go for that stuff? Where are we going to see? She goes, don't worry. She goes, forget about that. We're just going to have fun. We're going to do what we love to do and forget everything else. She said, I'll pay for it. Just go put the songs together and we'll put it out. And so that's how it happened. And lo and behold, you know, the moral of the story is do what you love, do what you were built to do, and you know, money and all that other stuff just works itself out, man. And you know, you gotta work your butt off too, though, you know.
Well, there is that, but it's pretty amazing that your connection with that music. I didn't say that you're from Tennessee and rural Tennessee, and also, by the way, anybody watching, if you want to send us a question, do. I'm getting some, but you can send us a question and we'll try to get to it. But to record the music that you did, it wasn't white boy music for the most part. You described it as music with dirt on its hands, I read one time, and that's a good description of it. And it moved a lot of people who probably wouldn't listen to any kind of praise music otherwise, or maybe hadn't been turned on to it to a significant degree. And man, you took that with Salvation and Lights and Beyond, you took that music to the masses big time. How did you connect with it? What was the connection?
Well, the connection was it was through addiction for me, through being you know, struggling with drugs and alcohol, but I had started down that path of, I discovered that stuff back in the early 90s when I was in Memphis working on stuff with the Wheelies, and there was a record store there, and I always loved the staple singers when I heard them on the radio when I was a kid. And so I started digging into the staple singers first. And then I found a Mahalia Jackson record. And that changed everything, man. I mean, it was just so raw. Here was this singer who could sing anything, but it was just, you know, the next step from her for me was, it goes Mahalia, Aretha, you know, people who were singing for their life, it felt like, you know, and so when I heard Mahalia, man, it really just, that's what I kind of ended up focusing on from the time I was 21, 22 till 2007, you know, and so from the early 90s all the way to 2007, that's where I was getting my hope, and it was my spiritual connection to God, you know, because I was never raised in church. I never had no formal, you know, church upbringing or anything like that, or religion, which is probably good for me. But that was the whole thing, and so that's what I was singing around the house, and that's what Rose was referring to, you know. It was like, do what you love. And I was like, this music speaks to me like nothing else, man. It has kept me alive sometimes. It's given me hope. It's been the thing that I lean on for that conduit to God for my whole adult life. So that's where I wanted to be, you know. But I was like, this is crazy. I don't know. I'm a freaking white dude, man, doing, you know, digging into this old gospel music, man. It's like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I loved it. It was where I wanted, you know. I couldn't have been happier, and it just kind of, it was weird because when we went out and performed it, it was well received. Rose was on her deathbed. It was well received by the media. It was the first critical success I'd ever had. It was unbelievable, and we were really bowled over by it. And Rose, I remember, I had to fly her back to Phoenix because she was living out there because her dad was elderly, and she flew out. I flew her out there, and unbeknownst to me, she was actually on her deathbed, and I remember sitting at the computer. She lived a year after being diagnosed, and that year I was sober, and I was learning from her how to run this ship, you know, not just be an artist, but she was really setting me up for now.
Yeah. In
2006, and I'm so blessed for that, man. But I remember sitting there on the computer, and she was showing me, she was telling me to look up we were getting emails in from like Barnes and Nobles, which was a big deal back then, and Philadelphia Inquirer and the San Francisco Chronicle, or whatever the paper is out there, and all these were calling the album of the year and blah blah blah. And I was reading the reviews to Rose, and she couldn't believe it. She was so ecstatic. Here is my best friend in the world. She's dying, and she's believed in me all these years when I didn't believe in me. And I'm reading her these reviews, and she's just sitting here going, I can't believe this. This is unbelievable. And so, but the biggest thing for Rose was she was feeling, vindicated, in her belief in me. But she was also, she's from New York. So she was also feeling like, yeah, she's going to stick it to everybody who doubted her and me, so it was, yeah, but that's really my connection and how I got connected to that. And it, to this day, it's still where I go. More than anything.
We're getting a lot of love for Rose online, so that's good. And
that's awesome.
Yeah. There was this moment. There was the band called Peaceful Knievel. I don't know how that lasted, but I remember the name. I don't think I ever saw Peaceful Knievel, but was that a good outfit?
Peaceful Knievel was actually, it was such a powerful, incredibly gifted group of musicians. But at the time, there was some of us in the band who was just not, we were not in our proper mind to take advantage of something like, what we had. But it was an embarrassment of riches. We had Charlie Drayton on drums, who had been playing with the Expensive Winos, had played with Neil Young on the Rockin' in the Free World. You can see it on YouTube, him playing. He's playing bass actually with Neil Young on that tour. And he's on Saturday Night Live playing bass. It was really cool. And but he's been playing with Paul Simon and Fiona Apple now. He just plays he's one of the world's greatest drummers. And we still do some stuff together. Audley Freed on guitar, who's with Sheryl Crow now, and George Lax on keys, who's been with Lenny Kravitz for 30 years probably, and Andy Hess, who was with John Schofield at the time. So it was a loaded band. But all we ever did was we would just get together and do shows in New York, and we opened for the Mule one time at the Beacon Theater for New Year's Eve, and then we did a few shows down south, and that was maybe for like 5 shows, but that's it. It was just, like I say, everybody was all over the country at that time, and a few of us were just, well, I'm going to say I was completely out of my mind at that time. So I was not ready to, or prepared, or even didn't know how to even put a band together and sustain it,
Well, you had a good name, and a lot of people may not realize that
that was a great name. That was an incredible name, man. I still love it.
And then you spent some time fronting Double Trouble. And what I think that you've maintained these relationships, and some of these guys you still play with are on your latest record, from People and Double Trouble both, right?
Yeah. Audley, I told Audley for years, I said, you got to get out of Raleigh, man. I mean, you got to come to Nashville. Nashville's where it's at. This was 20 years ago. I was telling Audley, you got to get to Nashville, man. You got to get here. Damon Johnson from Brother Kane. I was like, you guys, now they're all in Nashville and they're doing great. Charlie Drayton, we have an all-star band out of New York that goes around the world and does private events for like the ridiculously rich in the world. It's crazy. The band is Bernard Fowler's band, one of the backup singers with the Rolling Stones. And so when the Stones are out, I step in and I'm the singer. And so I get to do that. And that's a really great, we had a great gig this year, man, set up for one of these guys who hires us. And this one was going to be in Seville, Spain. And their flight, put me in New York for a month and rehearse with these guys, fly me in and out. And all that, yeah, it's really great. Last time this guy hired us, we went to Venice and played on a private island in Venice. Flew us all over. He keeps me in New York. It's crazy. It's so much fun. The Rolling Stones horn section and everything's great. And then Reese Winans from Double Trouble was on my last record, and he and I, he's going to be doing a session with me next week when I do get back to Nashville. We're doing a live stream for, I forget the name of what we're doing it for, but Reese, and when I joined Double Trouble, that was they asked me to join around, I don't know. It's like, man, when you get old, everything. When was it?
Maybe around 2000, 99, 2000.
Yeah, I think so. And it was, those guys were all, we're all still family, man. We talk to each other all the time. And Chris is, Chris Layton's doing the Kenny Wayne Shepherd thing, and Tommy's not doing anything really much lately, but Reese is always, up and, it don't matter. I don't know how old Reese is, man, but he will play no matter what the situation. He'll jump in a van, which I would never have him jump in a van. I don't want to jump in a van, but he just loves playing, man. He's got such a passion for it. It's crazy.
So jumping back up to Salvation and Lights and the way that broke and so unexpected, it was one of those records that you just, because it's not targeted, whether it's Adele or Norah Jones, these things that hit that are unexpected and people just, they connect with. So that had a following both from faith community, black and white, and in the secular side. So you were able, after that, to play all kinds of different places, like from mega churches to Bonnaroo, right? And everything that followed it. It really it resonated in a way that it's carried you a pretty good ways that you could do that. So I think the repercussions have been pretty cool from that record.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was something that like I say, we were, for lack of a better term, I was really kind of like really leaning on faith, with that record, because it was so unknown. We weren't looking for a record deal even, and Rose, we recorded 3 songs the first session, and I was living in Manchester, so I was driving back and forth to Nashville, and we recorded 3 songs and brought them back, and Rose was in New York. So Matt, my engineer, Matt Martone, he shot off one, maybe one or all 3 of the songs, like a little quick thing just to give Rose a little taste of what we were up to. And she just sent the one song, "Oh Mary Don't You Weep," over to her friend. I forget who was running. It was a lady ran Sony at the time. But she sent it right over to her, and the next day she sent it to the president of INO Records at Nashville, and the dude called Rose the very next day and said, "I want to sign this guy." And she said, "Well, you should probably hear the rest of this song, and you should probably know who Mike is," because it was a Christian label. We were like, I was like, "What are we doing we don't know anything about Christian music or Christian label. I don't know what the hell we're going to be doing." And they need to know who we are, because we're not that. And so it was a whole new world for us, man. Although that, to Jeff's credit, he had no intention of trying to make us or into like a Christian band, because that's not what I am. It's like I just, it's a bigger thing for me, more broad thing. And I didn't, I want to be in, if I'm going to do this, I want to be in the streets doing it, and I'm not going to be preaching to people. I tell people all the time, I can't say, don't even think about it, because I can't save you, man. I couldn't save myself. But what I can do is like follow the teacher's teachings, and I just live my life and let that speak, and let the music speak, and so that's the way we did it. And we ended up going, like you said, we would, can't think of any other band that would do this. We would play Bonnaroo. We would play a bluegrass festival on Friday, play a rock festival, Bonnaroo, on Saturday, and then go to a mega church on Sunday and play. It was like, the churches that would have us, not all of them, and so I don't know anybody else who was doing that or has done that, except for, I would say Mavis, but I don't even know if Mavis, people in church don't even know who Mavis is.
Right.
It's great.
But there's probably the rare fan that could have caught you in all three of those settings,
Yeah, and that's the beauty of a lot of these festivals now. Like when we first did Bonnaroo, and you go to Bonnaroo every year, Ray. You know this, man. They'll bring in like a legendary jazz guy. They'll bring and this bluegrass and country and hip hop. I was there one year, man. It was Beastie Boys, Merle Haggard or Willie Nelson, freaking Al Green, and the steel drive. I saw the steel drivers. It's just that's the way people's music collection is. It's you know what I mean?
I think the shuffle, people using a shuffle function, has kind of driven the way festivals like Bonnaroo are booked, because you just like you shuffle on your headphone or earpods, you shuffle from stage A to the which stage to the what stage, and so it's kind of boomed at the same time. That's my philosophy on it. So, but the live thing always worked for you. I mean, that's where you come alive, really. And lost your there you go.
There we go.
Live thing is where it's at for you. And another thing that kind of kept your momentum going was that residency at the Station Inn in Nashville, which ended up being that album.
Yep.
And with a lot of people may not know, the Roseland Revue was named for Rose, and and then you had the McCrary sisters with you on that one as well, and a lot of shows with you live too. So a live album really kept your momentum going, and that was a really cool residency, right?
Yeah, it was. As it turned out, I got clean and sober for 2000 for Salvation and Lights. I got clean and sober in 2005 or 6, and then I had back surgery. The week that Salvation and Lights came out, I had 2 blown discs in my lower back, and I came out of that, and I got strung out on opiates, and I stayed strung out on them through April 2011, and so making music was slow going for me because I was more concerned with, I was high, but so as a stopgap, we did that. I wanted to do a live record there anyway. At Station Inn, my dream was to do a record that was reminiscent of Sam Cooke live at Harlem Square.
Yeah. Okay.
And which is one of my favorite live records. And so yeah, that was 2010, and it was just, just wanted it to be raw, and the thing about it is that we were doing this thing in a small little joint where nobody'd ever be playing old black gospel in this place, but especially a white boy, you know, with you know, with a band that's exorbitantly, you know, you're just crazy, too big of a band to even book for
Right.
people to afford. And so we would pile in there, man. And my booking agent had that idea to set that thing up because he had done the same thing with Junior Brown in Austin at not the Troubadour. Oh crap! What's the name of that place?
Yeah, wasn't it? Some hotel in Austin.
The Continental Club.
Continental Club. Okay.
Yeah, he set Junior Brown up at the Continental Club, and so like on every Tuesday night, that was a thing to do in Austin, was go see Junior Brown. And so that became, he was like, we should do that in Nashville, and so we set it up, and it became hugely successful, made the band crazy good, and it was just a good place good thing to just set up shop and just create a presence. You know, and it was hugely successful, man.
So 10 years ago, when we had that big flood, you did a really cool EP with a band called the Cumberland Saints. The night the Cumberland came alive. Talk about that band, the Cumberland Saints, and how cool that was.
It was really amazing. I started to have this. I had this idea. Tyler Pittman, and he was like my de facto manager at the time. And he and I was talking about doing some kind of charity album. And what we did was the flood hit, so that kind of answered that for us. We were like, well, we have to obviously kick into gear here and record a record real quick. This is our charity record. It's kind of, so we went in, and the aim was to just go in and record the record in one day. And I wanted to go to downtown Presbyterian. I did the photo shoot for Salvation and Lights and the album release there in 2007, and I fell in love with that old church downtown. It looks like that music that we did at the time. It looks like our music sounds. It looks like an old Egyptian palace in this place, and it just looks Old Testament as hell. So I was like, that's where, you know. So we went in and recorded that record there, and I would just squat down at the edge of the pulpit, man, and just play, you know, well, this is how this one goes, and I would play it, and then we'd run it as a band. And so the band's just spread out all the way across the front of the church, this big, massive church, and no isolation or anything. And we would just run it 2 or 3 times and get 2 or 3 recordings, and we, you know, what we felt like we got it. And we recorded that whole thing that day, but it was loaded. Again, it was just, I'm so fortunate, man, but I get the opportunity to have such incredible musicians, man, because that's what drives me. I mean, that, you know, if the band, I'm feeding off that band. I'm taking in everything they got. I'm breathing all that shit in, and I'm turning around and I'm spitting it into the mic, man. I mean, that's what feeds me is great musicianship. And so for that, we had Sam Bush. It's crazy. This list is crazy. So we had Sam Bush, we had Ketch Secor from Old Crow Medicine Show, we had Kenny Vaughn on guitar, we had Eric. Oh man, jeepers! See, this is what happens when you get old, man. You can't remember shit. We had Eric, our old keyboard player, played on it, and then we had Derek Phillips, our drummer. Killer drummer, and I'm missing Byron House, who played with Band of Joy, Robert Plant, and that about rounds it up. Jim Williamson, who we just lost in Nashville, played trumpet on it, and he brought in some guys. I forget who all played, but it was an embarrassment of riches, that whole thing was. And what happened was that Ketch and I were booked by, we had the same booking agent, Bobby Cudd, and so that's how I got connected with Ketch. And I wanted to, because Ketch and Old Crow, people don't realize, they think their background is bluegrass, but it's not. It's really like old minstrel music, street music from the 20s, is what they're drawing from. And so I was really fascinated with that and wanted to connect with Ketch over that, if nothing else, man. So he came over to the house. I gave him some Copenhagen. He started chewing on it, got real sick, and and we started. I had some song ideas. The Night the Cumberland Came Alive, we wrote together, and we wrote Dear Lazarus, which was one of my favorite songs I've done, and it was just, man, it was just so ridiculously good, those musicians. It was just crazy, and I was proud that we were able to help out in any way we can, with my hometown being flooded.
Well, it's lasting music. It's what's cool about it. And now it's the 10-year anniversary of that. That's why I brought it up. So let's talk about your touring up until March when everything came to a halt. What's the range of venues and configurations that you're playing now before this all started with the COVID?
Well, we last year we did more acoustic stuff last year than anything, because we'd had a little issue with our booking agent, and we had to jump and on that, and so as a emergency procedure, we kind of. Are you still there, Ray?
Yeah.
As emergency procedure, we had to jump ship and figure out how we were going to make it through the year. And we announced this direct to fan thing and I came up with a brand for it. It's called Mike Farris Rocks the House concert series. And we just went straight to the fans with it because we had a new album out. We didn't have a booking agent. We had no shows booked. And so we went from having no shows. This was in, oh man, I want to say March. Sometime in March, we announced it like on a Tuesday. What's that?
March of 19.
Yeah. And then 7 days later, after we announced it, we had the entire year was completely booked, and we had a waiting list for 2020, and so that was hugely successful doing these things and these house concerts direct to our fans, and so it really kind of set us up for to save us for this year, because none of us saw obviously this coming, and 2020 was looking, up until this March, we were looking to have a record year, man, of touring and putting out another record, and all of it just came to a screeching halt, man, in March.
Well, tell me how you put together the house shows and what fans have to do and how you implement it and what are the mechanics of it all.
Well, what we do is, because we're dealing with fans, people who don't normally do house concerts. They have no idea that they want to do it, but they have no idea. So we knew in advance we need to come up with, lay out all the steps on what and guide people through this process, because it's nobody knows what they're doing, So we put together a thing to send out to everybody, tells them what to expect, what they're going to need, and the needs are really minimal, and what to expect. This is not a house, you got to tell people this is not a house party, this is it's a performance, so, and we got to, kind of hold their hand through it. And we try to just be there for them if they have any question. There's, cause they're going into it blind, And, there's a little bit of sound system that we may have to help them with from time to time or whatever, giving them some suggestions on even where to find this stuff in their town, and they, man, they do such a kick-ass job on it, man. Everybody does. It's really, I didn't expect this to happen, but they decorate their homes, man. They have all their friends over. If it's outdoors, or even if it's indoors, they have like, you pull up and those vertical banners. It's like a flag, but it's like, thin, and it's like, 12, 15 foot high out front of the stores or something, or what, an outlet or something. They'll have those things printed with my album cover on it, and there's a big picture of my face when I come pull it up. And then they'll have these big banners and like have all this stuff all over the house. They'll put, a star on like the bedroom that's my dressing room, or whatever, and then they have all the food. They turn it into, it's gone into something that's, they've run with it for sure. And
from your website?
What's that?
Go to your website and put a request in. Is that how it works?
Yeah, they just email us. We said, everybody, we send out. We just announced it last week, I think, that we're opening it up again for this year, and so all they do is just email us at info@MikeFarrisMusic, and we'll send them the details on how to make it happen. And the funny thing about it, Ray, is that you go into things like this, so you're like, well, we need to tour because that's what we do, right? I mean, that's how we make a living, blah blah blah. And because there ain't no money in selling records anymore, really. And so you go into it, you're like, well, this is what we do. We got to go and play music, man. That's what I live for. And then you offer this thing up, man, and as a service. But then what happens is, man, last year is that I started realizing that, you know what, I might be getting more out of this than they are. It's such a wonderful way to connect with people, man, and to connect with your fans and develop an even stronger bond with, with the people who are all the people who do these house concerts. They're what they call the super fans, right? They're gonna be there for you forever, and to develop an even deeper connection with those guys, man, it's really amazing. Because you'll go in these houses, man, they'll have I've gone somewhere here. There we go. They'll have posters and set lists and stuff on their walls, man, where they've been following you for years, and it's just, it makes you really grateful to be able to do what we do.
And you travel to wherever that is, and how far, and it's financially viable to do?
It absolutely is. What we do is we make it affordable to everybody. But also, we got to make a living. So we have a little compromise. We have a sweet spot there. And if we have to travel, too far beyond Mississippi, then the price will go up a little bit, maybe covered flights or something, but for the most part, I mean, Julie and I'll jump in a car and just, if it's in the Southeast, we'll, 5 hours, we'll just drive it,
Do you ever, I mean, it's probably a curiosity factor for you. It's like, what am I pulling into here, and what's this going to be like? Because you really don't know till you get there.
It can, yeah, that's kind of the scary part, you don't know what, it's like, the main thing for me is that, that so far we're batting 1,000. They've all been really, really good, but, still you're going, man, are these guys gonna, or is it gonna turn into am I just gonna be in a corner singing while everybody's partying? Is anybody gonna have control of this thing? And for the most part, it's been really, really, really great, man. And I guess one of the biggest obstacles, and it's not that even big of a deal, is that people want to have them outdoors, and sound isn't as good outdoors as it is indoors if you got the right room, because sound needs something to bounce off of, to give it some ambiance. And outdoors, the sound just, it goes and dissipates, 10 feet away from you. So that's really the only thing.
Well, I guess it helps that you're such a versatile performer, and you've literally played every kind of thing. I mean, I've seen you in every kind of configuration, from the tiniest bluegrass club to the older churches to funerals to name it, you've played it. So I guess it's just a thing. As long as you got a guitar, you sing, right?
Yeah, and what happened last year was that we realized that it was it really streamlined everything. Our expenses were cut to nothing. I mean, it was just Julie sent me out, in a rental car and a suitcase in a hotel. I mean, that's it. And so they're much easier, less stressful, and having to deal with logistics of booking a band all over the country or whatever. But we did end up having we did end up booking the festivals and the private events that we normally do last year. Those things, those are kind of like the added, that's the whipped cream on it, that those kind of things. But the bread and butter was last year was the acoustic stuff. And especially for this year, where we are in the current state of things, we've already gone and done 2 or 3 of these private events. And I was thinking, man, you know what? I was leaving Indiana the other day, Ray, and I was like, I might be the only person, who knows? I guarantee you can count on one hand how many people are out here doing shows right now.
Yeah.
So
what about streaming? Have you done much of that? And is any of that something you continue to do after the business starts back up?
Man, I think so. I had never done those things before. That's just, man, when I get home, I don't know. I don't know if people are, I'm just not that personality, man, who has to be. It's probably to my detriment that I don't get on and do things more, or just film video of me and like posting it on Instagram or posting it on YouTube. I always feel like, man, people probably tired of seeing my ass. You know what I mean? It's like, I guess I don't think that highly of myself to put myself out there every day, like people do, but it works for people. So I don't know. I'm probably wrong on that, man. But the live streaming during this thing, it turned out to be really good for me because it gave me something to do, something to look forward to. And it was really weird, man, the first couple of times, because you're playing a songs and you finish and it's just dead silence, but you're killing it. Like there's people here, and so it's really bizarre, man. Are you hearing people thinking about like doing more of that now, or what?
Oh, well, now we started a streaming chart in Pollstar just to track it because it became so ubiquitous, and some artists are making money off of it, and there's companies set up for them to do that and charge for it, and it's become pretty viable for a lot of artists. And probably something that will continue, I think. But it's a poor substitute for being in the room and an artist like you who feeds off the crowd and who really, I mean, you get a crowd going, you know, and it's a exchange between you and that audience that is great to behold. And I think it has a lot to do, as I said earlier, you're a live act, and to give it hell like you do and then not have that feedback, that exchange, it has to be weird.
It is, man. And I thought, well, at least I'll just have my phone here because we film it with Julie's phone, and then I'll just keep my phone next to me so I can at least like see, read and react. I can exchange with people, and they'll be like, hey, you should play. They'll send it, they'll request, as I'm playing or whatever, and and we can at least exchange a little bit, but it's all about live for me. It's really all about breaking down that barrier between the crowd and the stage, and we're really there to just kind of like facilitate this communal thing, really. And yeah, I mean, it's way better having the crowd for sure.
You're really good at that, by the way, breaking that down. So you have dates on the books starting up in July, and you got some evening with and some band stuff booked. Are you getting any indication as to whether they'll come off, and are you ready to go play? And would you play if the show happened in front of an audience?
Yeah. We're we just rescheduled the show that we had to reschedule. We do a spring show every year in Nashville, and it got canceled or rescheduled to July 31st. So we're actually doing 2 shows now. We do it because it's half capacity. So we're doing an early show and a late show, and that was scheduled to be an acoustic show anyway, because I've never done an acoustic show in Nashville, and it's one of those things where they're so, for me, they're just as good or better than the band shows, but they're totally different things, and a lot of to the point where a lot of places I rarely ever bring the band, and people go, man, I just rather you keep the band at home and just do acoustic. It's like, so there's different markets that want different things, and it's but none of my band, I mean, everybody's ready to go, and as soon as they start booking, and we've got some stuff, and we're expecting some more stuff to come in, but in the meantime, like I've got a show next week in Aberdeen. I decided I was going to do this thing, Ray, where I was going to go and do the shows that were on the books, certain ones, just run and do live streams on their websites in their empty rooms. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to go do one of those next week. We got to rock the house show in North Carolina next week. So I called this place called the Rooster's Wife that I play all the time. So it's a great little venue, man. And I love going down there because the crowd's great. And also Pinehurst is right down the road. So I get to go, and Pinehurst invites me to play golf in Pinehurst. So I get to play golf. And so, but I called her, I was like, hey, why don't we go? And she was like, would you, because these venues are calling and going, would you be up for doing a live stream? And I'm like, why don't I just come to your place and do, because I think my regular crowd, the ones who are still kind of locked in, or who still wants to see me live stream and stuff, I think it's interesting. It's really what's the word for it? Playing in an empty room like that, that's normally full of people and ready to enjoy music, and suddenly it's just completely empty. That's a profound visual to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Different kind of statement for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you know, the last waltz with the band, you know, and it's like, now it's just them in the room, you know, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a statement of these times. I don't want it to be an enduring statement. And I know we're ready for the sweaty, packed house where they're jammed in there shoulder to shoulder. That's when I know we're back. And that's where you thrive.
Yeah. And I think that's where, you know, somebody said a few weeks ago, they were like, you know, I don't think we're never gonna be back to where we were. I said, no way. We're gonna be back. This is what people do. This is who we are as species, man. That's what we do. We get together, we break bread together, we come together and enjoy that connectedness, you know, and that I don't think it's like you and me sitting here and talking, or like you know, we can this never is ever going to take the place of you and I being in a room together, man. That's when the spirits move, and that's where the real connection happens. And that still is missing here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, people are patient and they'll play by the rules for a good long while. We don't know exactly how long, but this music, live music's gonna happen whether it's officially sanctioned or not. They're gonna start playing, and people are gonna start going because they need it. I think it's essential, just like these other things they talk about is. It always has been. As long as recorded history is, they've been gathering to hear a great singer sing, like you.
Yeah, it's not going away, you know. And like you said, like you know, another friend of mine the other day was like, we were talking, we were getting ready to do one of these things, and she was like, I don't know, Mike. She goes, this is, you know, man, you know, Tennessee's open, you know, and now, you know, it's like, you know, whether they want to be or not, you know, she's like, I don't know what to make of it. You know, everybody's just jumped the gun, you know, and they're out and about, you know, and I think she was a little upset over it, but she was, you know, also like, I said, look, this is Tennessee, and B, it's America, you know. You can't. Americans are individuals, man. They're independent and they're free, and that is like bred into us now, you know. And you can't tell people, Americans, what to do, because they're just they're gonna do what they want to do, no matter whether they want, you know, whether they're told to or not. You know what I mean? Eventually,
yeah. I mean, they'll play by the rules for a while, but then it's like, okay, enough.
That's exactly right, man. I mean, they did everything they were told, and now they're like, all right, man, had enough, let me up, you know. And so that's just part of the American way, man. We're free-spirited people, you know. And it's like, you know, and again, we have, and it's this way all over the world. It's just not an American thing, man. You go to Spain, you know, they're all about connecting communally, you know, especially with music, you know, and food, and that's, you can't take that away from humans for long, and this has been a long time. It's unprecedented.
Speaking of friends, I had a question for you to tell us about your friend Warren Haynes. You talked to him lately?
I haven't talked to Warren in a while. But Warren was, that was the first tour we ever went on. Was well, it wasn't a tour. It was like a 2-week run, and he had just released Tales of Ordinary Madness.
remember.
Yeah, have you ever been to Stevens Talk House, Ray?
I don't think so.
It's this this tiny little venue, man. Out. It's not really a touring place, but they'll invite certain people out there. It's on Montauk out at the edge of Long Island. And, you know, people like Paul McCartney come in there and sit in and play, and Paul Simon, and, you know, it's just who's who, man. Bowie, I think, you know, just crazy, mind-blowing shit. And that was the first stop of us touring ever. And it was opening for Warren. And he actually had Paul McCartney's Wings drummer out with him, man. And I was just blown away by this guy, man. And so we toured for 2 weeks with Warren and became friends. Ended up touring for years with the Mule. And I was down here, actually right up the road here in Sarasota when they had just gotten their first copy of the Mule's first record, and picked him up. The brothers were rehearsing in these storage units. I fly down here, man, to write with Warren, and so they, you know, I'm told to fly to Sarasota, and this is where they're going to be. And so I pull up, and it's a freaking storage unit, man. It's one of the, you know, it's like just all storage units. But they had taken like, you know, 10 of these things or something, and like blown out the walls and made this like studio, like their sound man did or somebody. And I'm like, life gets so surreal sometimes in this business, man, because it's like I'm in a storage unit and the Allman Brothers are kicking my ass in the storage unit right now. Who would believe this, man? You know, it's like, and so we jumped in my car and rode around and listened to the first Mule record together, and it was mind blowing. It was so good. And so yeah, we've been friends for a long time, and he's still out there kicking it too, man, and killing it.
Yeah, that guy can play with anybody. Well, you've been real generous with your time. I appreciate you doing this. It's good to see you the other day. Anything you want to close on or share with the people watching?
I would say for anybody who's two things. First off, if you're a musician or an artist, man, or anybody really, you can't fight against what life throws at you, man. You have to figure out how to hustle and flow with it instead of fight against it, man. If you fight against it, it's like fighting against, you know, the water. You know, you're gonna sink, you know, and you're gonna tire really easy, and just flow with it. And that's the way we've been dealing with it lately. There was a time in my life when I would have fought like crazy and been pissed off at the world and hated and blah blah blah, and been angry. And man, it's so much easier to just flow with it, and you'll come up with there's ways out and forward. And so just be patient and be open-minded, and allow the opportunities to kind of present, because they'll present themselves to you. And for anybody who out there who would love to have a wonderful artist come and do a Rock the House show at your house, I'm your guy. Me.
Well, man, I appreciate you doing it. It's good to see you on a screen.
Yeah, man, you too, Ray.
And
Ray's the coolest office of anybody in the world. I guarantee it, man. He has got I mean, beyond, forget about Pioneer. Pioneer's got some cool offices in there, but Ray's is like the coolest on the planet. So,
well, come see me, man, and safe travels. Good to see you, Mike. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much, Ray. Have a great one, man.
Adios.